Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DeChara back with you once again, coming to you live from downtown Flushing, New York. That's right. I'm in the eye of the storm, the pandemic, the worst place to be in the world. If you're following this coronavirus stuff, I don't even know what it is because I haven't been out of my house in months. I've been sitting here preparing these trainings for you, the entrepreneur, the solopreneur that wants to learn how to win at business. And that's what I'm here to show you, folks. If you don't know me, my name is Joe DiChiara. I am a CPA, serial entrepreneur, business trainer, and I just love working with entrepreneurs. I love teaching about entrepreneurship, and this is what I live for. I don't work anymore. What I've done is I've learned how to make my business simple, fun, and very profitable. And that's what I want to help you do. And this is one of the ways that I'm doing it. You see, because you're watching this and this is free. And I talk about this all the time, folks, because this amazes me. The fact that I could be sitting at home, create a PowerPoint presentation, and put it up in a format on a platform that's that's accessible to tens of millions of people. When I got into business, a fax machine was strange technology. I remember my boss had a fax machine and he split the cost with his client who was upstairs. And I remember if you sent a fax, you would wait like a half an hour and then call them and say, "Did you get it? Did you get it?" It was, and it wasn't that long ago, folks. I'm not 300 years old. uh, but it is amazing. And if you're not taking advantage of it, then shame on you. Okay. There is no reason in today's world why anybody, it might take a little ingenuity and some technical know-how, but if you don't have it, if you're an entrepreneur, you'll figure it out. Like a lot of my friends have. Uh, this is an amazing time to be doing business. I mean, think about it. If you're sitting at home worrying about when the doors are going to open, uh, when the next government stimulus check is gonna come in the mail, or when unemployment is going to be able to actually process your claim. If you're sitting around waiting for that, uh, I'm going to pray for you. Because the truth is that there is an abundance of opportunities out there. Now, I know I got an email from my friend Larry Broughton today, who owns Broughton Hotels, and that he's in a situation where you can't solve it virtually like I can. Okay, and that's the sad truth. A lot of businesses, a lot of business owners have been affected in ways that are way beyond anyone's control. Now, I know Larry, and I know that he's gonna get through this, and he'll emerge uh, victorious. Maybe not with the same business model. The hotel travel industry business model might be changed forever. Who knows? But Larry's a smart guy, former Green Beret. He's tenacious. More importantly, he's a great guy, and I just hate to see anybody suffer. you know, let alone a friend or any entrepreneur that has to go through this stuff. But we all knew what we were signing up for when we signed up to be entrepreneurs. At least most of us did. And so my job is to not only educate, but hopefully inspire and motivate you a little through some of these stories, through some of my experiences. And, business is tough. I won't, it's always been tough. It'll always be tough. And I go through that every night in my presentation because it's the truth, and I got to remind myself that because, especially as a solopreneur, basically working on my own, uh, there's no office people around me. I have to go for a walk to actually see people sometimes. I used to go to clients just to see people. uh, but that's the business that I wanted to create, and I did it because as a CPA, what I was looking at was being held down by the ball and chain called an office. Okay, I didn't want that. And 15 years ago, I had a vision of being able to do my business this way. And if you have a desire to do something, you have an idea to make money, you can do it. It's not going to be easy. It's never easy, but I can help you make it simple. And this is one of the ways that I do it, through bringing you, you know, information like this, some of my stupid, wacky stories that maybe sometimes might make sense to you. And maybe they don't, but someday it might happen to you and you'll say, oh, I remember when Joe DiChiara was talking about this, and now it's happening to me. So let's get on with the show. What I'm going to do tonight is something I'm sure that you're going to find extremely, extremely exciting, because I am going to show you one of the most important fundamental things that has to occur in every business, and nobody wants to do it unless you're a bookkeeper, file clerk, or an accountant. And that is, I am going to show you how to win a business after I do the PowerPoint thing here. Oh yeah, I got to share the screen. Taught myself this last night. So, hey, what do you know? Like I said, this technology is unbelievable. So here we are. I'm going to show you how to win a business. And tonight's episode is I'm going to show you how to save your documents. Because believe it or not, folks, when people were talking about going paperless 20 years ago, and it was a fantasy. Well, we are there now, and it was supposed to make things easier and simpler. But guess what? It never works out that way. It's more screwed up than ever now. You see, when you had paper, you could actually see it, and you could see if it was organized or unorganized. Now all this stuff is in your computer, and you think that you have it. You think you can get it, and then until you have to look for it. And then you're spending days and saying, oh, you don't know if you deleted it. Is it in my Google Docs? Did I put it in Dropbox? Or maybe you actually have a paper copy of it. So not everything is paperless now. Maybe it's not. Maybe you have a hybrid. I had a client, a large construction company, where almost everything was paper, or so they thought. They thought everything was paper, and their files were a mess. So it became obvious that we had to clean up the file system. So what I did is, and I'm going to show you how to do it, is I created a hybrid. We had the paper documents, and we created a system for scanning and saving them. And we had the electronic documents. Well, guess what? The IRS doesn't care if it's electronic, paper. All they want to see is a document. And not only that, when you open a business, you come under the jurisdiction of people that you don't ever want to talk to. Okay? You come under the jurisdiction of the IRS because you have a business, and every business is required to keep books and records. So let's get into the show tonight. How to save documents is another strategy, which I am going to show you how to win a business. And like I said, life is tough, and business makes it even tougher. Most people get sidetracked. It's easy. It's easy to let stuff get in the way. And that's why, if you look at the statistics, according to Forbes, 8 out of 10 businesses fail. I think the number is actually higher. And the reason is that, well, one of the reasons is that there's way too many things to keep track of. So I was talking to a friend of mine, Sue, today, and I said, really, people fail. There's one basic underlying thing that seems common when people fail. It's a loss or a lack of focus. Okay, and it all comes down to the same thing. You could be focused, but then something happens at home, and now you're focused on. You can't be focused on two things. Okay, and so when we get into organizing your business, there's a lot of levels of organization. It starts with the legal way that you're organized, which is another area where there's still 25 million sole proprietors out there that never made a decision to step up their business. Okay, there's the internal organization. The papers, the documents. There's the systemized organization. There's the processes of your business. And all of these things, the wheels that turn your business matter. They all matter a lot. And the more organized everything is, the more efficiently you run, the better your chances of success. And that's a logical fact. It's a scientific fact that you can't argue with. Nobody could argue with me about the fact that if your files are in alphabetical order, you have a better chance of finding something than if they're not in alphabetical order. Okay, so organization becomes key in business. And without the organization, it's hard to focus. So you see, people focus on wrong set of words. They look at the wrong areas as to why they're not succeeding. Okay, they look at the wrong area. I'm not bringing enough money. My expenses are too high. Well, those are results. Those are results. Those aren't reasons. There's something that happened to cause there not to be enough revenue to come in. Or maybe there was never the action implemented that would allow for enough business to come in. Maybe the reason why your expenses are too high is because maybe you haven't looked at them because you don't have a handle on your books and records. Okay, so the lack of revenue and the lack of cash flow, these are all results, people. They're not reasons. So let's go back into the show. Like I said, it's hard to stay organized and profitable. Okay, it's actually, forget all this. I already said all this, so skip all that. And let's skip over to the fact that what I have decided to do for you and for myself is to make business simple, profitable, and then it'll be fun. I think I'm going to change that around because we said simple, fun, and profitable. It's a lot easier to have fun when you're profitable. It's kind of stupid if you're going to be, I can simplify it for you. You could have all kinds of fun, but then when you're not making money, so I'm going to change that. Okay, note to self, change that. Maybe I'll watch this again and I'll remember to change it. So let's go into the best practices of how to do this, because there's a lot of ways to save files, and I'm not going to show you every single way. I'm going to show you, one of the ways that I do it. But there's simple concepts here that you have to follow. Okay, and the first thing is that obviously your files have to be accessible. Okay, and that's what's great about having paperless file systems. I've literally been in the airport in Thailand and was able to securely send the client a tax return that they needed. Imagine that. If I was a typical account with a paper file system, uh, it wouldn't have happened. Okay, it just wouldn't have happened. So your files have to be accessible. So I'm a big fan of the paperless, but if you're not paperless, if you're one of those people that still has to have papers and everything, your files got to be in a place where you can get to them. Okay, that makes sense. They have to be organized. Okay, just because they're in one place does not mean you have a file system. Okay, I had it out with a client at a woman he hired who was a former barmaid turned uh, chief administrative assistant. And she decided to create her own set of rules. And it wasn't pretty, because she decided that she needed them in a different order than what was, number one, alphabetical. She didn't like alphabetical. She liked to have them in her own categories, like office supplies and stuff I have to get to later. And it just wasn't organized. And number three, it's got to be consistent. Okay, consistency. And I'm going to get to that. Now, let's go to accessibility. So, what do I mean by accessibility? Like I said, Google Drive is one option. I use Google Drive for my own documents. I actually use a hybrid, and I'll tell you why. So, all of my documents are saved in Google Drive. A lot of people like to use Dropbox. Now, I started using Dropbox uh, as a way to securely transfer tax documents, because basically Google Drive is not a good format to do that. Google wants everybody to be with Google, and it becomes a problem with easily trying to save, transfer files. So what I do is I'll have a client send me their files from Dropbox, and then once I'm done with them, I will upload them to my own Google Drive so I can have accessibility to them. You could even have local. I have clients in the financial services industry, and they can't have everything online, and so they have a lot of files on a network in their office. So that's another way. Now, uh, the next concept is to be organized. Now, what do I mean by organized? You got to decide, you have to decide that for your business, your industry, what's appropriate. Now, as an accountant, these are the areas that are important to me. So I need a file for taxes. So all of my clients' different tax returns go into a folder. Okay, these are folders. Insurance. I have a permanent file, which would be for things like articles of incorporations, legal agreements, stuff like that. Stuff that if you buy fixed assets, you have to keep those documents, loan agreements. Uh, and then we need to have, vendors and bills, okay, and customers and invoices. So that's how I have them organized. Now, if you're a trucking company, you may not need a file for taxes. You might need a folder for truck repairs or whatever, or if you're in construction, maybe job costing. But whatever is appropriate for your industry or your business, that's how your files have to be organized. Now, consistency. What do I mean by consistency? Alphabetized is a very, very simple way to organize your files. And I'm talking about folders within folders within folders. So you can have, vendors, and then inside vendors, you can have the ABC vendors. And then when you open up that folder, you can have, all the A's in one folder. So however you have it organized, alphabetizing it is a very simple way to organize your files. Chronologically, so when I do my tax folders, I also have inside of those tax folders, I have it by year. Not only that, I have in the tax folders, I might have sales taxes, payroll taxes, and income taxes. And then in subfolders in there, I'll have 2019, 2020, and 2021. Okay, let me and naming conventions. I want to go through that, but let me change this up a second. I'm gonna stop sharing the screen, and because I want to share a different screen with you. And there we go. And this is an example of my Google Drive folder system. Okay, so what I'm going to show you here is that this is just a normal Google Drive, and I have a template here that I share with my clients and anybody that wants it. And what you get is you get like the vendor folder. And then, like I said, you have the two different years, and now in here, I'll have it by alphabetized. In taxes, I'll have the different taxes, and then you'll see I have the different years in there. And then it can be by quarter. And so over here, I have a folder to be filed. Okay, so let me show you. Here's some of my bills. And I want to talk to you now about the naming conventions. And that's why I brought you here. A naming convention will make it easier for you to search, especially if you have them in Google Drive. Now, I had a construction client where we set up this sort of system, and they had thousands and thousands of bills that came in and thousands of invoices that we sent out. And it was without the right naming convention, it was difficult to ever find anything. Before I set up the system, it was basically going through Google, searching for the name of the vendor, finding the date, and then hopefully, putting your hands on the actual paper document. And I got it down to where it took literally less than 15 seconds to find this information. And this is how we did it. So, first you got to determine how the information comes in. So, like I said, in the construction business, there's still a lot of paper. People still send invoices and statements. So what we do is we would scan the document and then name it. Now, a lot of my receipts come through electronically. They'll come in either as an email from the vendor directly, or sometimes if I buy something through PayPal, it'll be in the PayPal document, and I'll have to save it there. If I buy something from Amazon, so you gotta determine the source. But however it's coming, you're gonna have to convert it to electronic format. Okay, and this is how I do it. So I'll take this receipt. Let's see what this is. Okay, so this is for the Queens Chamber of Commerce. I paid $370 on February 26th. So let me make a note of that. 226, 19, 370, and it was the Queen's Chamber. So this is how I might do it. I would go, so first we got to rename it. So I would give it an initial like QC for Queen's Chamber. I put a dot there. 370 is how much the bill was, and then 02, 2619 is the date. Now, every bill that came in from Queen's Chamber is going to be QC. I have the amount there and the date. And I made a mistake on the date, and this is where I said you got to be consistent. Now, this takes a couple of seconds, and that's the time investment that you got to make uh, in having a good system. Now, okay, this is Passion on Purpose. I paid $200 on February 10th. So you could see, okay, I did POP, Passion on Purpose, Hub, and I wasn't consistent here because this was doing it differently. So it's 200. So now I got those two receipts. Sprint store receipt. I paid. What did I pay? $592. So that's Sprint on 7-Eleven. So this, I would say, Sprint. Okay. So that's that. Now what I would do is move this. Oh, that ain't gonna work. Yes, it will work. I'll show you that. Actually, it's not going to work. But anyway, let's go back to here to be filed. So what I was going to try to do was to just drag it and drop it, but you would have to move it. There's another way to move it in Google, so I can go from here to be filed, and then it would go to vendors, and I don't have 2019 there, so I would just put it in the vendors folder. And same thing with this, I would go move, and move it there. Now, it might have seemed like it took a while. It's because I wasn't set up for this, but if you're set up, and so one of the things about time management is you want to set aside, okay, I'm gonna spend a half an hour, organizing my bills, paying them, and then filing them. So you just go through your email, and one by one, you just do it as part of your daily routine. If we were going to take all of the bills, thousands of bills, and do it and try to name them all at the same time, that was a job. I mean, when in my construction client, before we had the system, we had to have a starting point. So we didn't go back that far because it would have been a tremendous job. But what we did was we set up this process so that going forward, everything going forward was going to go into this filing system. So what I'm going to do now is I close that. I'm going to share the screen again with the PowerPoint. I'm going to wrap this up. And we just went through the naming conventions. So let's talk about the document formats. What I just showed you were PDF files. So what I'm talking about is it's .pdf. That's the most prevalent type of format that you're going to see in these documents. Now, sometimes if you have to scan them, depending on how your scanner is configured, They might wind up being JPEG documents, PNG documents, TIFF documents, but whatever it is, it doesn't matter what the dot, whatever the format is, as long as your naming convention before that is consistent, you will be able to find them, find the documents. So let's go back to, sorry, we did formats. And so let's just review what I went through, the best business practices for saving your documents. Number one is you got to make sure that they're accessible. In other words, can you put your finger on them? Are they organized? Okay, you can't have it organized according to how you want them. Okay, you gotta, if you're the only one that's ever going to access them, then that's fine. But the best filing systems can be figured out by a fifth grader. Okay, if you have a filing system that nobody can find anything, it's not a good filing system. Okay, I just got a client and they have all their files online. They have them in Dropbox, but there's no consistency. There's all kinds of different names. All the folders are named differently. Different people name different files according to how they wanted to find them. But there's an organization where everybody needs to access the documents. So it's got to be organized according to who is going to be using them. And everything has to be consistent. So in this one instance, what would happen is, somebody liked to have things in chronological order. In other words, they had everything by year, as opposed to having it by category and by date. The next person wanted everything by type. Okay, so then we had the folders with the years, and then we had the folders with the bank recs, the accounts receivable, and the accounts payable. Well, they were the same documents, just going into two different folder systems. So everything's got to be accessible, organized, and consistent. And like I say, every night, if you watch this and you learn something and you don't do anything, it was useless. If you take action, okay, if you take this information and take action, and you might see results. Because like I said at the beginning, your profits, your revenue, your expenses, those are all results of what you did before. The actions that you took that created those results. Okay. And that's my story. I'm sticking with it. My name is Joe DiChiara. If anything I've said resonated with you tonight and you think it might be able to help you or help somebody that you know, please feel free to reach out to me. You can book a free chat by going to timewithjoe.com. And I'm going to put the banner up here because I spent a lot of time and effort creating that. So that's how you connect with me. You go to timewithjoe.com, and all I could promise you is that I could help make your business simple, profitable, and fun. All right, Joe DiChiara, over and out. Thanks for watching. I will see you again tomorrow.